going to walk through Facebook prospecting, and we have our decision to scale. So as soon as we get that scale decision, usually the next question is, well, how much should I scale? And there's a couple of ways you can come to that answer. If you're thinking that you have a lot of room to scale and you want to be able to do something quickly and kind of all at once, you should probably take some time to do a scale test first and kind of test out in a smaller market with smaller amount of dollars to kind of simulate what scaling up quickly would look like. And then you can extrapolate that to, okay, if I were to do that across my entire program, how much could I do all at once? And that's a great way to test what adding a large amount of money at once would look like. For a variety of reasons, sometimes scale testing is not feasible or not the desired next step. Sometimes brands don't have enough budget to invest in a small group of geos. It can, when you do a scale test, you often have to put in a lot of budget comparatively to what you're currently running in order to see the result in a meaningful way. And you just might not have that amount of money to invest at that time. You might also not want to or need to be adding a huge amount of budget right away. You might want to take the path of, adding 5K, 10K a day, something in a small kind of increment for your business. And you might want to just add, a small amount of money each time and monitor how your performance does over time. And when you get to the end point, you'll know, because of reaching your ROAS goal, you will then have the answer when you look back over that period of time of how much budget you've added. You'll then have that answer of, well, how much budget could I have added? And the kind of the benefit of doing it that way is, again, you're not risking, adding $100,000 in a single day and kind of, blowing out your spend. Obviously all of these platforms, they need time to absorb the extra spend and calibrate their algorithms to that extra spend. And so adding a lot of budget quickly can really tank your performance in a way that wouldn't happen over time. Also, if you add budget increments at a time, if for some reason your performance really does kind of go off the rails, it's not going to go so far off that you can't course correct. So I am a big fan of this approach. And I'm going to show you through this graph here of what it would look like if you did that step-by-step addition of budget. So this is what a graph would look like if every day I was adding 5 to 10K increments of budget. I would be tracking these data points day by day, seeing what my total budget was on that day, and then what my ROAS was. And as we all know, as a general rule of thumb, as you add more budget, your ROAS will tend to decline in terms of diminishing returns. But we're just going to track, how quickly that does decline and monitor when we get to our goal point. Now, because we have a new set of ROAS metrics to judge our performance against, we're going to side by side track what our self-attributed ROAS look like at the same time as our advanced attributed ROAS. And so this is a graph of us adding budget day by day. And at this day one, our self-attributed ROAS, the platform, Facebook, is telling us that we have about a 650 ROAS. But we know from our calculations that probably equates to something more like 450. And we're going to keep adding. We're still above both of our goals. In this case, our self-attributed goal of 350, our advanced attributed goal of 250. We're adding budget day by day, still seeing that we're above our goals until we get all the way over to the right and we see the curve starting to slow down, and we finally hit what is our self-attributed ROAS of 350 at about 390K of total spend. And if we look back in time, we started out at probably like 125K. So, we more than doubled our budget over time. And this probably took, about a month, 2 months to get there. But we now know that we can spend up to 390K, 400K. And so adding that much budget on day one would not have been advisable. But now we're able to reap the benefit of that higher budget without the risk of, sending our ROAS too low.
Let me just pause right there, Ali. So the key takeaway, at least when I sort of absorb her content, is that this is the unlock operationalizing advanced attribution inside media teams. Now, I don't think you guys you're all analytics. You think you're also analytics, Carl Reese. I don't think none of you are growth marketing, are you? Okay. All right. So
no, I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. Now, you were going to be working with your media counterparts, like helping them apply whatever you publish as the new efficiency. You're going to be like, well, I think the Facebook channel is now the new cost per install or cost per order is X. Okay. And they're like, well, we're managing to some per portion of X. It would be like our ROAS is like 2 times that. How do we manage it? Well, here is basically it. You basically take whatever your measured ROAS is times the multiplier, and you end up with a new target for that particular channel, right? And now you can walk towards that target. Okay, either you can cut budgets or increase budgets depending on where you are on the line, and then walk towards the target over a period of time. It allows them a way to use your targets, and this is very aligned to how they optimize the media anyway. And when the way Ali would buy media today, when she goes back, finishes her class, goes back to her DSP, this is kind of how she's doing it. She's like, oh, I need to get here, so I'm going to set a new target and walk towards it, right? And there are different ways to do that depending on the bidding methodology or the bidding approach for that campaign. But this is very native to how they use the existing media buying platforms. And now you're just issuing new targets for that. That's it. You take your current, whatever measured CPA is, and whatever your target is, and then you're going to end up issuing new targets. In fact, there's one more video in the last class. I'll issue that as a pre-read, where we can talk about how to come up with those targets for different channels, depending on the multipliers and what the measured, the advanced attribution measured CPAs, ROAS numbers are, okay? So this is a great cheat sheet. It is kind of an unlock for operationalization. So again, just take a mental printout, stick it somewhere so that you can use it as a cheat code when the time comes. All right.
Yeah, for sure. And if you went to your media teams and you told them back at day one, okay, I want to add $200,000 to the platform today, they'd all probably have a heart attack, and they would probably actually recommend back to you, okay, we'll add the 200,000, but we want to do it day by day. And like, they would probably draw something out like this, very similar for you all. So this is very much in line with how your media teams are thinking about this. So, this is how we make decisions of adding the budget. But now, as we're adding budget, we need to make sure that the platform knows to optimize to our new goals, and is given more help to optimize to these goals, because the more budget you add, the more guardrails you need to put in place to make sure that you are maintaining your efficiency and using that budget to go after additional audiences and not just hitting the same audiences even more, which is not going to get us the desired result. So I'm going to walk you through a few things in Facebook in terms of the specific levers that they have. Some of this is very specific to Facebook. Facebook is its own beast, and they've come up with their own kind of tools for optimization. I would say they have some of the most advanced optimization. They also probably have some of the best automated optimization because they can really control their environment. They know their own inventory. They own their own inventory. They know their audiences really well, as we all know. And they can obviously build their own algorithms. And so a lot of the automated controls that Facebook has actually work. Now, you will see controls like these in other platforms. If you think of your general display DSP, they'll often have a ROAS goal optimization setting. They don't work as well as Facebook's ROAS optimization. I often find if I were to try to use this similar ROAS control in a display DSP, it would get me a result nowhere near what I asked it to do. And so I typically find in those that you need to do a lot more delivery optimization in order to back into the ROAS. But we're in Facebook prospecting, so we can take advantage of some of the automation of Facebook. So in this case, we can use, when we go to optimize and delivery, we can tell it to optimize for value, and we can give it a goal ROAS. So we can plug in that 350. And remember, even though our new advanced attributed ROAS goal is 250, we still want the platform to think that 350 is its goal, because the platform is going to continue to give itself credit on its last touch metric. So we want it to optimize still like they're operating in the old world, because they are. And we're going to know when we do our calculations what that's actually coming out to in terms of our meeting our advanced attributed goal. But all you have to do is plug in 350 here, and you add more budget, and you let Facebook do its thing, and it's usually pretty good at doing its thing. There are a few cases where you may want to, in Facebook, tweak some other settings. So particularly if Facebook has many different objectives, which just complicates this all. So you could run lookalike models with the objective of getting conversions, in which case this ROAS optimization is available to you. But you could also run lookalike modeling with the objective of getting traffic, and still want to track the conversions and get a goal. But Facebook is not actually optimizing to that conversion goal. It's optimizing to getting you traffic. But you want that traffic to perform well. So in that case, you need to pull a couple of different levers, or your agency team needs to pull a couple of different levers, which they do all the time. So one of the things that they will need to do in the case of a reach objective or brand awareness, or even if you have a ROAS goal but you want to tighten something up because it's not working exactly as it should, you can go in and adjust your CPMs. So you might find that as you're adding budget, you're going to need to pay more to get those additional users. So you might find that the platform, if you add you go from a $5,000 a day budget to $10,000, you want it to spend $10,000, but it might get stuck at $7,000. And that's a signal that you might need to raise your bid to get that additional $3K delivery. So in this case, there's a few different ways that you can adjust your bid. You can also set a cap so it doesn't go too high. And this is a field that your media buyers are playing around with all the time. And then In addition to adjusting your bid price, they are also looking very closely at frequency capping. And this is frequency, especially when you're adding budget, is something you're going to want your team to track very closely, because like I said before, if I was spending $5,000 before on an audience, I don't want to spend $10,000 on that same audience and just deliver that same audience twice the amount of ads, because the likelihood of them increasing or converting further is very much not twice as much, and you're really just going to tank the efficiency of your campaign. So you want to make sure that as you're adding budget, you're not you're keeping your frequency relatively stable, which will signal to you that you are reaching additional customers. And when you are reaching additional people, you are opening up new opportunities for your new budget to drive additional conversions. Frequency is you can cap your frequency. A lot of platforms allow you to do by day, month, all different combinations. Facebook, in this case, we have a 2 per 4 day frequency. You just want to make sure that you are putting some kind of guardrail in place. If you are working on your lookalike targeting tactics specifically, you may find that you need to open up that audience. So usually at a smaller budget level, you can choose a tighter lookalike audience, which will be more likely to convert and look more like your seed audience. As I want to spend more and reach more potential customers, I am going to have to start opening up the lookalike audience. And you can see Facebook has this sliding scale. And as you move down the sliding scale, you increase the number of people you can reach. They do, as you reach more and more people, they do start to look less and less like your seed audience. But that's where you have to find the sweet spot of more people that are still performing to reach your ultimate goal. So that is a lever that gets moved around quite often. Again, on the prospecting side of things, you may want to use new interest or psychographic segments. So you're running a bakery, maybe you've targeted people who like cake very specifically. Maybe you want to broaden that out and try people who like desserts in general. I would fall into both those buckets. So you can open up your scale that way, test new audiences, all under this prospecting umbrella. But it allows you to potentially find new customers, which is really what you need to do with that additional budget. So if you were to talk to your agency teams about any of these levers, these would all be things that they would be doing anyway to spend more money, even if we were looking at last touch metrics. So now we're just going to do these things to spend more using our advanced attribution metrics. Questions on any of that?